Welcome everybody. Sorry, I was supposed to share screen. Um, got it? Just a second. This here. Okay, can we see the screen? No, did not do that yet. Okay, can everybody see the screen and hear me?
Yes,
Okay, all right. Wait, which screen can you see?
both
Okay,
of them.
the screen. Okay,
Welcome.
all right, awesome. Okay, so welcome everybody. Welcome to today's review session on the book. I almost said revealed on the book Becoming by Michelle Obama. Revealed is by a different author, not Michelle Obama. All right, so today we will. Wait, is Ife here? No, she's not. Tayo, please, I'm making you co-host in case people are coming in, just to help admit them. Okay. All right. So welcome. I think we have some new people in our midst today. So we are reviewing the book Michelle Obama. The way this typically works is, and this is a welcome to our new people as well, is that we will kind of like have chats, conversations around issues that concern us as women in living our lives, navigating career, work, family, our spiritual lives, our health, our finances, all of it. And so we'll read books. We'll talk about the club itself later on, but we'll read books, we'll learn together, we'll have conversations just to get us going. And yeah, I am facilitating today because quite frankly, I did not chase anybody down to facilitate. So I'm doing that today. But at the same time, it's a collective effort. We're all in this together and having the conversation together. So there are some guided questions that we'll talk about, but also just to help us navigate the conversation today. So yeah, so what we'll cover, we'll welcome our newcomers. If there's somebody who is new here today, we want to know who you are, and there are some questions to help us answer just to get to know you better. And then we'll have a little icebreaker. The icebreaker would be um, um, yeah. Anyway, you'll see what the icebreaker is. It's a game, but it's also nerdy game because I'm a nerd. And then we'll talk about the book. We'll have conversations around the book, and then we'll talk about what we can apply and just share general thoughts and how we're going to apply it for ourselves as people. So, without much ado, who is in Ladies Arise for the first time today? Tolu, I know I see you. Thanks for asking to join, by the way. Um, Let me see who else. I don't know which Emanuela this is. The Emanuela I know doesn't spell her Emanuela with E. She spells with I, and she uses one L. So I'm guessing this is a different Emanuela. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but yeah, you're gonna have to introduce yourself to us. Tolu, I'm going with the order of how I see you on my screen, and you're first. Do you mind? So just tell us your name, uh, what city you're in or country, and what you're looking to get out of being in LadiesArise.
Okay, thank you, Anita, for having me. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes, we can hear you.
All right. So my name is Tolulope Akinyemi. I stay in Canada, Regina to be precise. So when I saw this on your status, I was just like, oh, I just got interested because I could see that this is like a group of ladies trying to learn to become more of. So I was just interested, and I said, okay, let me just give it a try and just join the live stream today. So I okay, by joining, I just want to be a better version of myself, just be a better person, a 360 better person. That's all.
Awesome, and we are glad to have you. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. Yeah,
Thank you too.
yeah, Emanuela. I don't know if it's the Emanuela I know, but if not, then
Well, good evening.
good
Good
evening.
evening. Hi, people. Ma- This is Manuela Evido. I don't know if it's Manuela you are referring to. I prefer to people say that, but I say that, and then I get back. So, I can't really tell you.
Sorry, it's a little faint. I can't hear you clearly.
Oh, I said I can't really tell I'm a new member. I've been part of the group for a while, but I opted out, but I'm back. The name is my
Okay,
Can you hear me?
well, a little bit.
Can you hear me? Oh,
I can
okay,
hear
let
you,
me
but there's this weird noise as well.
this.
Okay, so thank you. I think what I heard is that you were here and then you kind of opted out, but then you're back. Give me a thumbs up if that sums it up.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, well, welcome back. Welcome back and good to have you back. So yeah, I forgot to tell you guys to just maybe turn on your camera so we can see your faces, but that's okay. We can always do that another time. I don't know if you're in a state where you want to do that. If you want to, feel free at any time when you're talking to turn on your camera so that we can see your face. And if not, that's okay as well. Like I said, this is a safe space. When this link goes out, it's only the ladies who are in the club that sees it. And on that note, I'd also encourage everyone to say, please, when if there is a link we keep private, it is kept private for a reason. The links that are privately streamed is just for us to have access to the replays without storing so much on my Zoom. So keep private links private. You can share to other ladies, but men are out for those ones. When they're public, yes, the men can be part of the conversation. Okay, I hope I didn't miss anybody. Please, if I did, feel free to pull me back and then we will go on to our icebreaker. Wait. Let me explain the icebreaker. So the icebreaker is fastest fingers. All right. And there'll be gifts for this icebreaker. Now, if you are in Regina, the gift is there are a couple options that will be given out. If you are in Regina, the option or you choose between a $25 Bath and Body Works gift card or a $25 Sineplex gift card. And if you are outside of Regina, the gift is a $25 worth of anything of your choice or Amazon gift card, whatever you get to choose. But if you're in Regina, I actually do have the physical gift cards, and those can be put across to you. For those of you that have businesses, feel free to say, I am putting down 10 packs of, 10 donuts for Susie's Pastries for the fastest finger. So, fastest finger, first response that I get, first response that comes into the chat box for the right answer. And then the person with the most correct answer will win the gift card. So, it's a bunch of questions, and you would each have, let's make it fun, 20 seconds. You'd each have actually 30 seconds to provide an answer to the question. Are we all clear? Thumbs up if you're clear on the icebreaker. this thing. The only thing I'll tell you is that all the answers are Black people in celebration of Black History Month. Okay, are we good to go? Everybody sure? I don't see no thumbs up from other people. Okay, I see more. Deborah, Tayo, Timmy, Precious. Okay, all right. Okay, let's go, let's go, let's go. Number one, I was in prison for 27 years, but eventually.
Nelson
Hey,
Mandela.
what?
Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, fastest finger, type it out. That one goes to Deborah.
Oh,
Okay, awesome. Next one, are we ready? I am the first and so far only Black Human Rights Commissioner in Saskatchewan. If you get this one right.
human rights what?
Eh?
Human rights what?
Commissioner.
Ah.
Don't ask Google. Oh, Emmanuel, I'm so sorry. Yes, for Canadians, I apologize. Oh, actually, Manuela, there are a lot of them that I did not think this one through. Anybody? Final answers? Okay. So her name is Dr. Christine Luanga. She's been the first and only Black person to lead the human rights as the Human Rights Commissioner for Saskatchewan. She's also my PhD mentor. So bragging rights. Okay, next one. I am famous for my human rights advocacy, but even more so the famous quote, I have a dream that one day Martin Luther Blink.
Martin Luther King.
Wrong answer. If you're saying Martin Luther King, wrong answer. What? Obama? No. Abraham Lincoln is not Black. Oh my God, there's somebody in the wait room. Thank you, Emanuela. Martin Luther Jr. or Martin Luther King Jr. Yes. Yeah, the first, yeah, actually is Martin Luther King Jr. So yes, if you said Martin Luther King Jr., you say same thing. No, it's not the same. Junior and senior. Yeah. Martin Luther King Sr. actually was very instrumental as well in history, more church history than not, but also influenced Martin Luther King Jr. as well. So again, it's the same thing. Okay, if you said Martin Luther King Jr., you are correct. So that one goes to confidence. Okay, I'm the first Black woman to be voted into the Congress in US, into US Congress. Don't consult Google.
Her face is coming to mind. She's a little chubby, but I can't remember her name.
Say Clinton's wife. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, Clinton's wife is definitely not Black. So the answer is Shirley Shom. I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah. Chishom. That's her name. All right. Next one, and I think was that the final one. Ugh. I am the first Black Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. Sorry, it was intended to be hard. Now I see that it is hard. It was not intended to be hard, but now I see that it is hard. It's a jump question. Pass. All right. The answer is Lincoln Alexander. People, you should know this one. Sorry again, Emanuela, and those who might be in Nigeria. First Black woman to appear on Canadian currency. This one is not jam question. This one is pretty popular. You spend the Canadian currency, you've seen her face before. Her name is there. It's there. Yes. That one goes to Tammy, Viola Desmond. Yeah, this one might be hard too. So first Black woman to be elected to the House of Commons. This is Canada now too. Say pass. What's going on today? So the answer for this one is Jane Augustine. Okay, so the ice is not breaking. Wow, okay. All right. That was the last one. So I think, yeah, everybody got one question each correctly. I mean, no, three people got three different questions correctly each. English is hurting me today. There will be considerations for non-Canadians in the house. Absolutely. Let's see. What can we come up with? Mention any iconic Nigerian woman that had something to do with Nigerian history. Good answer, Pam. I like that. Me, yes. Anyway, we're all iconic. Ngozi Uwela, yes. I like that one too. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, people. So, like I said, it was not meant to be hard, but somehow it is hard. But the goal of this really is to get us to a point where we see that there are a lot of people who have gone ahead of us. And that's the truth, right? And when I think about the book itself that we're reading, it's that, it even really resonates so much. Directly late. Yes, I love that woman as well. She was a woman of power and knew what she wanted and very visionary. So anyway, so the goal of this exercise really is just to help us see that there are a lot of people who look like us, who have been through situations like us, but then somehow, against all the odds that were stacked up against them, went on to become amazing people who did great things, who were not afraid to challenge the status quo and shake history. All right. And we remember them for it. And some of them are not remembered as much as they should be remembered. And as fellow Black people, I think it's up to us to start to dig into the roots of who these people are and highlight their stories, because there's something called like the principle of first. And that is that once something has been done the first time, it is easier to replicate it again and again. The motivation some of us would have in life to keep driving is either would say, I don't see anybody that looks like me, so I want to be there and hold the door for other people that look like me, or I know of this one person who did this, and if they can do this, then that gives me the motivation to say I'm going to do better and take as many people with me as possible. And truth be told, these people did not start out trying to make history. They wanted to just, create balance in the world and give fairness to everyone. So yeah, that is my very nerdy icebreaker that's refused to break. The ice did not break. So how do we determine our winner? We can deliberate on that one. Um, okay, so people, this is the part where we start to unmute and talk. So becoming. No, this was. Oh, I'm missing a slide. I don't know what happened to that slide. But anyway, before we jump into, so becoming is in three parts, right? How many of us read the book? Show of hands, whether you finished it or not. I already put my disclaimer out there that I haven't finished it. But I'm in chapter part 3, but I'm not done yet. Show of hands, anybody? I just want us to ask the question of, okay, great. Just with the much you've read so far, it's in 3 parts. Part 1 is becoming me. Part 2, becoming us, where she talks about her and herself and her husband. Part three is becoming more, okay. The question I wanted us to kick off with today is, when you hear the word becoming, especially in relative to Michelle Obama's story and how the book is put together, what does that mean for you as a person? What does becoming mean for you? I'll take the first two or three people. Anybody? What does becoming mean to you? Feel free to raise hand, unmute, and talk, or I will tell you. So,
I think to me, becoming is that the fact that I'm a woman does not mean there's a limitation on me. I can be whatever I want to be. I don't have to be under the shadow of anyone. So it's like, oh, this is me. I'm a woman. I know that I'm a woman, but it does not mean I'm limited. I can achieve anything I want to achieve in life.
awesome. Thank you so much. I love that. Becoming means that I'm a woman. This is who I am. I'm not hiding in the shadows, or I don't have to be in anyone's shadows. I can be whoever I want to be. Thank you. So Timmy says here, finding yourself. Becoming is finding yourself, and that's what it means to her. Embracing your past, present, and future. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I love that. It's right, the past part, because sometimes we're told, yeah, forget the past. And I mean, to some degree, yeah, context, context matters. Forget the past in the sense of stop holding on to things from before, but also just embracing that if there's a past, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's part of the past that may have shaped you into who you are today, and has the power to also shape your tomorrow, depending on how you choose to use the details of the past and today. Anybody else? If you want to type in the chat too, I guess that's fine. Evolving. Taya says evolving. I love that. Evolving. Evolving. I love that. Although I'd love to hear a little bit more on what evolving itself now means. Okay. Becoming me entails a lot of intentionality. Absolutely. I love all that. Okay, thank you all so much. So we've all talked about what becoming means to us. So like I said, the process of evolving. Absolutely. The process of evolving. Okay, awesome. Thanks, everybody. All right, so part one. Does anybody want to give us a quick synopsis of part one? And then we, one of the, this, again, these are just discussion guides. It's not like we're bound by these questions. They're just to help us kind of think through the main theme of each of those parts and the stories that were told in those parts. So, but does anybody want to give us a quick synopsis of part one? Part one was becoming me, and then there's a couple chapters in there. That one you'd have to unmute and talk. Where are those that have read the book? I said we're doing this together. Wow. Okay, it's a quiet house. All right, so part one, becoming me. Michelle was just talking about her parents, her own upbringing, and kind of how she grew up in a large house, sort of, or her family is closely knit, and in living with, so she lived with her brother and her parents, and just watching her parents and their style of parenting. For me personally, it was a lot of emphasis on how they were formed as adults, but the role that the parenting that they had have to do with who they became as adults. And so she shares about her experiences with, them living with one of her aunties and the auntie's husband, or a shared building or a shared apartment, sort of. And quite frankly, it was nice to see that piece because she grew up like any regular human being would grow up. And even more so, like any regular human being would grow up in a not so nice part of any city. In this instance, in Chicago, and or south side of Chicago, as she likes to call it. So when you think about her life as a whole, it seemed very ordinary in that sense, right? But I was particularly struck by how their parents raised them. Okay, so which for me informs this question, and then even more so when she shared about Barack's upbringing and how very different their families were, yet somehow both of them found each other and seem to have sort of similarly aligned type values and philosophies of life, which then makes me wonder, and hence the question, what role does parenting play in shaping a strong identity and confidence in our becoming, learning from both their stories? So, thoughts? Can I have a volunteer read out the things in the chat? Funks, can you help with that? Do you mind? Like for things that come in the chat to just help read those out when they come.
Okay, if I may, I hear you. Hello.
Yes,
Can
yes, we
you,
can hear you.
okay, if I may just share a little bit on that, since I didn't pass that part of becoming me. I think one thing that fascinated me so much about Mr. Obama's mom was this, there was a scenario that happened when they came to, and they had one second grade teacher that was interested in the children affairs. The woman went behind to lobby for a change of class teacher or daughter, and that really contributed or boosted her confidence. I really, I was intrigued with that. I must confess, because people said I was later on to find out that there was a mob that went behind to lobby for the change of the great teacher. So I think that is a plus for our mom.
Okay, so sorry, there was some of it was breaking. So were you sharing like the story where her mom facilitated like the school, um was it fundraising? I forget what it was.
Yes, something like that, yes,
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I guess watching her mom do that in itself, sometimes our children watch us, right? We don't know how we respond to things. For me too, I think I kind of like that scene where the mother. So for those who have not read the book, it was a part where their school was dilapidated. They were not getting as much funding as they needed to. So hence the quality of education the kids were getting was bad. But Michelle's mom recognized that her daughter was special, was smart, and to help make sure that at least kids who were putting in the efforts had the kind of education that they deserved. She worked at ensuring, like, putting some work together, doing sort of kind of like advocating for funding, advocating for the school to adopt a system that allowed them to focus on the kids that had some hope for bright future, if I'll put it that way, and give those kids the attention and education that they deserved, for the benefits of her own daughter, right? So which is something that, even though this woman was a stay-home mom, right? The mother was a stay-home mom when they were growing up. Yet somehow she watched her mother do that. And I think that has a lot of impression on kids when they watch their parents kind of take the reins of things and do what needs to be done. Any other thoughts? What
Um,
role? Yeah.
I think one of the parts towards the end of becoming me that really got me, I think you mentioned it just now, is both parents at the end of the day coming together and working together, cleaning and all of that, even though they were smoking. And the kids could express themselves that they didn't want their parents to smoke. They went out of their way to, stop their parents, get the cigarette, hide it, break it, put different things just to discourage their parents. But what touched me was them seeing their parents work together at the end of the day to talk about how their day was. And I think it really helped, especially when Michelle met Barack and they had a relationship where they could talk about how their day was. Like, it was a plain thing. They weren't pretending about it, as in they weren't pretending, and they were not scared to talk about their feelings. Like, she would tell him, I don't like the way you're smoking, or what. She was able to also separate her relationship from her career. She knew when it was, oh, I have a boyfriend, Barack. She knew when it was right for her to be excited, and she didn't allow that excitement of her being in a relationship affect her career. So she was focused on her career, and this helped her to be successful in life. So she knows how to separate different emotions. She knows which emotion is supposed to play at a particular time. She lets her personal relationship not affect her career. That's something that I really liked about it too.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. So the way watching your family do things together really helps, and just um again, just showing that example, right, to your children. When there is openness between both parties in raising a child, it helps the children to recognize that it's okay for me to also be open with my own emotions, right? And share with my parents and be open. And I think there was a lot of authenticity in their home between the parents, between the, which also helped someone like Michelle to be more authentic with her feelings. So that's even part of, we've talked a little bit about the Michelle side of it. How about Barack? So Barack, for those who did not read the book or are yet to read the book, Barack's own upbringing, he didn't have his parents together. Father is Kenyan, and he's all the way in Kenya with another wife and other kids. Barack's mom also had another kid or other kids with another man, and then lived outside of the US and outside of Kenya for the most part of his life. But his mother, one thing I realized that I think I missed watching the movie was that apparently his mother was an intellectual as well. She was a sociologist now, whatever she was, or a geologist, I can't remember, but she was something. And it sounded like she was well read herself, and for me, I see that that also helped inform Barack's interest in book. When I remember one part where they were even talking about how Michelle was sharing that watching Barack talk to his mother, they'll talk about different books that they've read, they'll catch each other up on new articles and things. And for me, I thought, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Clearly, his mother was very intellectual, and I think that rubbed off on him, right? But also adding to his identity in that sense, which I think for me is great. For those who have kids, one thing you quickly learn and realize is that once you have kids, is that they tend to copy you. So if you're a reader, chances are that with time, and if you're instilling those values in them, you raise readers. If you are a naga, chances are that you raise nagging kids. If you are a thankful person, chances are that you raise thankful kids. Beyond what we're saying to our kids, but also what we're modeling for them in terms of behavior and patterns and habits, is what I think I find on both sides of the spectrum, is what I find. Any other thoughts before we move on to this? Because we'll still have more rooms and opportunity for that conversation. If you want to share in maybe how, even for you as a person, do you see yourself, or maybe this is an offside question, for you as a person, do you see pieces of yourself and how you are today that is informed by how you say you see your parents deal in life? Anybody want to share? I know that's a little bit of a, maybe a little bit of a sensitive area for some people, but if anybody want to share. So quiet. Can anybody hear me? Anybody? Do we understand the question? Okay, moving on then. All right, so part 2 talks about becoming us, and part 1 kind of flows into part 2 where they talk about where she met Barack Obama for the first time. Um, I kind of find the way they started their journey really interesting. Their first meetup. Again, I missed this in the movie. Apparently, she was a mentor to him at work. They're both lawyers. I think many of us probably already know that. They're both lawyers, but then they met when he was interning at her firm, and she was a mentor to him being a student intern and her being an associate at the office. And when you look at their story, their lives, the conversations they had, there was something I posted in the WhatsApp group about how she determined that Barack was a good fit for her. And I personally found that very interesting. And I personally found that very interesting, but also very, I don't know. But anyway, becoming us. Anybody want to share? Give us a quick synopsis, add anything that stood out for them there, and then we talk about the question on the screen. Anybody?
I think this was her, like how she was describing Obama as someone who was he immersed himself in books. He was secured, like he had a sense of security. He was secured and confident in what he was doing. He was affectionate. He wasn't hiding. And he was a man that could make a woman feel good because he always made her feel good. And then also talking about when how fast the reality of them becoming the first Black presidents in the US. Like she said, she couldn't even remember if she was breathing. Like when they announced, they were all excited, but at the same time, they were quickly taken out of that room. And she couldn't even remember if she said thank you because it was so overwhelming for her, even though they had been prepared. So it was like her explaining that that excitement of them being the first president, but not like she really felt it because it was so overwhelming for her. And I think from the movie too, I remember that she, like Barack was saying, he had to take permission from her before he decided to run for the election. Like, oh, please, we're going to need 4 years. I need you to support me for this 4 years, what. And she said, okay, she agreed that even after when the fourth year was almost running over, he had to come back. Oh, please, I need another 4 years. And so she had to put her life on hold for her husband for 8 years, but it was because they had already reached an agreement. So to me, I feel like the reason why Obama and Barack was successful as the first Black president was because they had an agreement. They both sat down, they talked. It wasn't a one-person decision. It was the two of them coming together, sitting down, calculating the cost, how it's going to affect their personal life, how things are going to change, and both of them having shoulder to lean on each other and saying, oh, this is what we're going to experience. So when they begin to experience it, because they've already talked about it, it was much more easier for them to navigate through it. Because I remember there was a rumor that Michelle wasn't a woman, she was a lesbian or something like that. And that she's just been like a photo, she just for props or something like that. And I saw that they didn't even say anything like it didn't seem like it shook them. It might shake them behind closed doors, but they'll always come out together strong. So it didn't really make those rumors to stick for long. There were lots of throwing of stones and talking negative about them, but you could still see that they were strong because they had agreed together from the beginning. That's my view.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really love that synopsis, and also just, with you sharing some of the things that stood out for you and stood out to you. I share some of those sentiments as well, quite frankly, because there is something about the power of unity. And I think even just watching their lives unfold while they were in office, I remember there were a lot of times I used to joke around my husband, like, wow, this is a power couple. Like, it's a good example for us to learn from. That's what at least I call them, power couple. Um, and it's a good example for us to learn from. But it wasn't so much about the glitz and the glam, because I know that I'm sure beyond the glitz and glam, there's all these other things, like, the rumors around Michelle is a man happening. There were all sorts of things. Obama is not really a US citizen. There were his some people even called him the Antichrist. Like, there were all sorts of things thrown at them, right? But just watching them navigate all of that, personally, I had so much to learn from it, even before there was a book, and just watching that unfold, and yeah. So hence the question of, even, and you've touched on that a little bit, Emily, that that before you take any step as a couple, is that act of sitting down to count the costs together, agreeing on who is giving up what, and are we truly in this together? And there's a lot to learn there. But thanks. Anybody else, any thoughts? And then, even just if you want to speak to the question as well, of how a spouse can propel you to become a better person, and whether or not, marital relationships is really that of a big deal, or can I just choose to marry any Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes my way? I shared something in the chat about, this is from the book, and something Michelle was saying about her thoughts on and decisions on why Barack Obama. And I thought it was very powerful. I said, at work, I witnessed his humility and willingness to sacrifice his own needs and wants for a bigger purpose. Now in Hawaii, I could see his character reflected in other small ways. His long-lasting friendships with high school buddies showed his consistency in relationships. In his devotion to his strong-willed mother, I saw a deep respect for women and their independence. Without needing to discuss it outright, I knew he could handle a partner who had her own passions and voice. These were things you couldn't teach in a relationship, things that not even love could really build or change. In opening up his world to me, Barack was showing me everything I'd ever need to know about the kind of life partner he would be. Whew. I don't know about you, but for me, now that's what I call romantic. Nerd in the house. So, thoughts on all of that, and the role that life, and for those who are not married, I know in the group chat I said this is some key coded relationship nuggets packed in this one little tiny couple sentences, because the truth is there's something to consider. But anybody else want to share a thought on that?
Well, I think marital relationships are important, especially when I think about like why is important. There is a way you show up as an individual to your friends and family, but then you go into your quiet space and there are all these fears and worries you deal with. I think that's where a marital relationship actually thrives. For instance, if you have a partner that creates an open space for you to be able to speak about these fears and supports you, like, through the fears and through your wins, and then then you're able to actually deal with it, knowing that when you go home into your quiet space, you have that person that is championing you through different phases. So I think for me, I think that's where that's one huge advantage of a marital relationship. Because when you get home, your friends are not there, your family's not there. You pretty much have you and your spouse and your kids. And it's your spouse that hopefully it's your spouse that would see you at your worst. So yeah, I think that's how a spouse can actually propel you to be a better person, if your spouse is in unity with you and is your constant champion or constantly championing you.
Awesome. Thank you. I love that. And you're so right. There are pieces of us that everybody else sees that only our spouses know. And I say that I love. Anyway, so thank you, Pam. I really love that. Uh Key word there that I think I really love too is that when your spouse champions you, it makes a world of difference. And you know that you can always go home and they should be your safest space. And I think with the Obamas, that's one thing that I find in their story as well, is they were each other's safest spaces. Even at the beginning of the book, right? When you're reading, and then she talks about how the morning of um meeting with Oprah, how she was feeling and all tense, and how Barack reassured her that, look, I've read it, it is beautiful, it is good, and I know you'll do awesome. Those constant moments where they're just being each other's, providing shoulder for one another to lean on in ways that nobody else would typically be there for them. That really is important. So yeah, that's a championing there. Any other thoughts? um I want to ask a question, and we can still speak to this, is that typically, historically speaking, and you can see that in the life of someone like Michelle Obama's parents, the expectation, the unspoken expectation and ask historically has been women, it's not even a question asked, right? And this ties into something that Emily was saying earlier about, it's not a one-man decision to say, yeah, you're the woman, so automatically you take the back seat and let me just do my own thing because I am the man, right? And historically, that's what we've seen a lot of times happen, is there's the need for somebody to take a step back or make some form of sacrifice, and there's an unspoken expectation that it is the woman, right? And sad to say that in today's world, there are still people who have that same expectation in those same thinking thoughts or pattern. How does one navigate through a situation like that, right? In today's world, especially when considering all things, it probably does not make sense that in that moment, the woman should be the one to take the back seats. How do we as women navigate that? For those who are married, for those who are not, if these are conversations that if you're in a relationship with somebody you're having, what are ways to kind of navigate that so that we don't feel like my life is on hold and somebody is angry or bitter?
Well, I think first of all, you probably the couple should understand like what their vision, like what the vision of their family, where they're trying to go. And then it's a long-term, when you're thinking about what sacrifices are you making, it's when you're thinking marriage is a long-term commitment. So I feel like weighing, first of all, it should just be noted that both of you are trying to do what's best for each other and what's best for your family. If you're starting from that angle, then it's not a thing of I'm going to sacrifice and you're not going to sacrifice. I'm going to take the I'm going to sit down and you're not. So if we think about it from this instance, okay, the woman gets a new job in a different city. There's so many things to consider. Like, what does that mean for our family? Are we uprooting our family? At the end of the day, do the benefits outweigh the cost? And if they do, then let's move. But if they don't, then we're going to reconsider and we're going to figure out a different plan. So it's not a thing of what is best for me as the husband, and because I'm the husband, I'm just going to rule and reign, but it's pretty much what's best for the family and what's best for us individually, and how can we make the best of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Thanks for that, Pam. Anybody else? Oh, it really is a quiet house today.
Sorry. I think
Okay.
like what the previous speaker said, I think it's about sitting down together and talking about it. Because it's, I don't know, I think it's like an automatic thing, like, oh, the man's dreams will always come before the woman's dream, even when the woman comes. I think it's just automatically, like it's like a default setting that it comes like that. So I think the best thing is actually to sit, oh, I have a vision, or I have a dream. This is my goal. And this is how I'm thinking that I will achieve it. But I want you to also, carry the other person along. Let it not be like, oh, this is just for me alone. The glory will be for me. No, we should come to a place where you sit together and say, okay, this is what I want to do. You as the man, you as my husband, how do you think you can help me to be successful? So that they don't feel left out. They'll still feel like, oh, they played a role in achieving the dream, even though it's the wife's dream and she's playing bulk of it, but just give them a sense of, oh, we're achieving this together. It's not just for me, it's going to be both of us. We're all both going to share the glory together. So I think that will be like a propelling force to push the woman up and say, okay, she's my wife. She still bears my name. So by the time she becomes successful in achieving her dream, it will be something that both of us is going to share. That's just my own personal thinking.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love that. And it ties so beautiful well into what Pam had even said, right? With what's our family's vision and goal, right? And once we know that and we sit down to have that conversation, if the opportunity surfaces and it's from the wife, I like what you said about, just, okay, honey, sweetie, babe, mi amor, whatever we call them. Here is what we've said we're going to be and do as a family, right? Here's where we say we want to navigate our family. Here's an opportunity, right? And here's how I'd love to see you support me, so that if we are able to nail this and we get these results, it's our win. I like that, giving them that sense to, and I think you work both ways too, right? Is that giving them that sense of you're in this, we're in this together, right? And my win is your win, your win is my win, right? It's our win together as a family, and that they can make that contribution in it, so they don't feel left out, as opposed to the traditional way that, for some of us, maybe growing up, you see your mothers or your grandparents and what that had looked like. One thing I find interesting is, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're all ladies here, but women, I think that we would all typically, and I think there's something in the way a woman is wired, that we tend to be very sacrificial thinking and oriented, that either ways will probably make the decision to sacrifice for our families. True or false?
True.
True, right? If you think it's true, thumbs up, type it in chat. True, true. I think that the way we're wired will typically naturally just want to make the sacrifice anyway. But what I think historically I didn't like, and I really hope that even for us that have boys that we're raising, as we're raising them, as we're navigating these conversations with our husbands, and is that we raise a new generation of men who realize that you can ask for that partnership, as it were, if I'll put it that way, without trying to lord it over the other person, but knowing that two become one and we're in this together, right? So I really love those thoughts. Does anybody have anything else to share on that? I have one more question that I want to ask on this before we move on to part 3. There's a lot, honestly, because there's a lot of lessons to learn from the way they were raised as kids and the way their parents raised them. There's a lot in their story and how they navigated the conversations between them. One thing for me is, if you're an intellectual thinking person, if you're very intellectual, please find a fellow intellectual and marry if you do not want to be bored to death or not be able to engage conversations with your partner that stimulates you, if that makes sense. Anyway, Precious is here. One of she'll probably resonate with this in this because I know she watches them a lot. There was something recently I stumbled on Instagram on Pastor Kingsley and Mildred's this thing. I said I was going to find that video to watch. I accidentally stumbled on it, quite frankly, but I thought it was interesting. And the tag of it was how to make love to your wife without touching her. Um, I don't know what the answer was. So please, anybody, if you've seen that video that I'm talking about and you remember what was in, feel free to share. But I think for me, it had a lot to say about compatibility. That's how I see it, in a way that you're speaking to things that excite your partner that would eventually help you last in
I
some
love
other.
that message. I listened to it.
You listen to it? Okay.
Yeah.
Please feel free to share it in the group chat if there are people who in the WhatsApp group chat, in case there are people who want to listen to it as well. I didn't even know it was a full message. Like I said, it was just a snippet of it I saw, right? If you even want to maybe share some of the things that was talked about, but it's just ways of stimulating your partner in a way that is not sexual, but last, it will score you in that other side. Any other thoughts? And then I ask one more question on this and we'll move on to part 3.
Hello.
Yep.
I just wanted to add something which kind of contradicts with what you just said, in terms of like, if you are an intellectual person, you should marry someone who is intellectual. I think that's also one of the benefits of, sorry, hold on, of being in a relationship, right? Is that the person's strength. So where you are weak, I feel like those are areas of improvement. So that person can encourage you, if they've seen things or areas that are not your strongest suits. I think they can encourage you and help you along that line. So yeah. And because how we already said, your partner or your spouse is your closest person. They've seen you. I feel like they should be able to understand your strengths and weaknesses. So in those areas, if there are some areas that you want to work on, that they're stronger in, I feel like they are the best person to encourage you or to, I guess, propel you without that judgment. Because as we said, it's a safe space, right? So at that point, or in your marriage, you are vulnerable. They've seen everything. So then they're able to speak to you as they would speak to themselves with love. Because again, when you're married, the two have become one. So, when your spouse is speaking to you or trying to encourage you or propel you, they're also speaking to themselves. So the way they would, talk to you will be with love. So I feel like that's one of the benefits as well of being in a marriage, even though you're not, you might not have the same characteristics. Like if somebody is, for example, neater and the other person isn't, those are things that, rubs off on you, or there are things that you would learn and pick up. As they say, you are an average or some average of your closest people, and part of that closest group that you're in, your spouse is in that group as well. So there's certain things that your spouse will do or habits that they have, that would rub off on you as well. So I think it's both ways. Yes, you should have someone that's maybe at the same intellectual level so you can have those conversations. But even if you're not, I think there are things that you can also learn from each other, which is part of the whole our spouses propelling us to be a better version of ourselves.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Funks. I really love that. And yeah, no, you're right. So that will make me rephrase what I said better, which is know what you can and cannot take in that sense, right? Know what your this thing are. You can't be too exact people. And even from their own story, right? There's a bit of that contradictory personality there, and contradictory ways of thinking and doing things. Obama sounds more like a carefree kind of person, Whereas Michelle sounds like I have to be in control and know what I need to do per time kind of person. Totally different. Yet somehow they made that work for themselves, right? And I remember there were times where she would say, just thinking about Obama's ability to just jump at life and go for what he wants inspired her to start to really think about herself. As a matter of fact, I think that relationship is what caused her to start to introspect on what she wanted truly in her career. When you read through the story, there's a part where she starts to navigate out of the world of wanting to be a big time corporate lawyer into something more purposeful with her work. And I think Obama and his opposite side of her had a lot to do with that. And even when she shared about her friend Susan, the Nigerian girl lady who passed, you kind of see that there as well, right? And to your point about the sum of average of, I don't know how to put that thing, of the closest people to you anyway, right? You see that something about those kinds of carefree people that were around her made her introspect and call herself out in times where she's just sticking to a routine, but not necessarily really living life, but she's just existing and going through. So thanks. I like that perspective, and thank you for sharing it. So yeah, it's basically just know what you want, and what can be a yes or a no for you that you can deal with. Not everybody might be willing to. An intellectual is just an example out of different things it can be, right? So yeah, know what works for you to say, yeah, I can take this if a person comes like this and we'll work on each other to be better. But if it's XYZ, it's a no because I'm not interested in trying to help somebody else be better in that area or whatever. But yeah, in the spirit of safe space, your spouse will be able to help you be and do better. Thank you. Any more thoughts on that? Okay, so the one question that I think I have for us before we move on from this one is, for those who are married, if you had to give a word of advice to people who are not in choosing work life partners, what would that advice be? Everybody must talk on this one. I know all the married people. Sorry, Emmanuel, I didn't ask. Are you married? I think you're the only one that. Sorry? Yeah? You are? Okay, good. So I know all the married people. So if you're married, what is the one thing you would advise people who are not to consider as women in marrying a person? Michelle shared her own, even though she was not trying to give us relationship nuggets, but she did. So for those of us that are married in here right now, what would you advise? Who is Galaxy Tab A?
Please, can you repeat the questions again?
For those of us that are married, what is an advice you give to those who are not married? Something to consider in choosing a life partner.
Oh, well, I would say, first of all, be very self-aware, know yourself, and be very honest be honest to yourself about who you are and what you can accept, or what you can accept in marriage. So, for like, there's this whole idea of, oh, marry someone that has potential, rah, rah, rah. Great job. I think that you should, like, when you're looking to marry someone that you can accept who they are, not thinking that they will change to become something else. Like, what you see, just accept who they are. So if there's a crazy person that you've seen and that's what you like, go for it. Don't expect the person to change, because I feel like when you get married to someone, all the things that they used to hide, just like, or you could see little bits of like specific behaviors. It just blows up when you're married because they're relaxed, they save space, they can do whatever they feel like. Now they're not, well, they're going to be chasing, you guys are going to be chasing each other till you die, but you guys are past that stage. So just, yes, let's not get into potential topic, but yes, look for good attributes, but accept what you see. And if what you see is what you like, then go for that.
Awesome. I love that. I think about something Pastor Bimbo Dukoya, late memory, would say, which is, what you see in relationship is the tithe. That's just 10%, right? Now magnify that and assuming they don't change who they are, are you willing to deal with the 100% in marriage of what you see now? Right. And I think for me, that made a lot of sense. Okay. Thank you for that, Pam. Okay. Others, everybody must talk on this one. On this one, everybody must say something.
Okay,
I know all the more.
okay. I just want to add, like just following up from what Pamela said, like whatever you can, whatever I can avoid before getting married. I remember when I met my husband, we had gone to I'd gone to Nigeria then to see him. And then I knew he had a mentor, but I didn't know how much respect he has for his mentor at the time. So we went to the mentor's office together, and then the mentor asked him to leave. And then I stayed back, and he was like, what you're seeing right now, like with this person, like what you've experienced so far, if you don't like it, if what you like about the person, um, if what you don't like about him outweigh what you like about him, don't marry him. And for me, coming from a mentor, I was like, shouldn't the mentor be on his side, and all that. And for me, actually, it got me thinking as well too. Like, I think what has really helped us in our marriage is that we both have mentors. And yesterday, no, for instance, something happened. Like we don't fight, but I mean, we're just in a place where we just had the cold war between the both of us. And I remember him calling my mentor, was reporting me to her, and then she called me and she was like, Precious, come and see me in my house. I was like, yes, ma. See, I'm not going to now, but like the plan is to go because I already know, like, and it was like, if you didn't have somebody I could talk to when we have difficult time, I wouldn't have married you. And I was like, what do you mean you wouldn't have married? But so to have somebody that, because marriage is not easy. Like you guys are going to have, even though he's the best person in the entire world, nice shacking you and all of those things, it's gonna get tough. And you need somebody that you can always go to say, hey, like this is happening in my marriage. You've been married for this amount of years, and how can you help us? And that account, having a mentor is really, 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 really important in marriage. And also marry somebody that can respect. Respect is not about age, because I've seen somebody that the wife is the one that is the oldest in the marriage. Somebody that can respect. I don't know what respect means to you, but you have to define what respect is to you, and can you respect this person? So that's the sort of part to what has been said so far.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Marry somebody that can be talked to. Honestly, that is very key. There's something my mother-in-law always says, which is that a person that nobody can talk to is as good as a dead person. So because people will literally watch them walk into fire and not say anything, not because they're wicked, I want them to die, but because they probably tried to talk to them before and they never listen to anybody and will just always do whatever they want. So it's kind of like, leave this that one, just leave her alone or just leave him alone. He doesn't, you talk and talk and talk, they won't do anything. And to her, such a person is as good as dead because you walk into your death and nobody would bother to say anything. Marry somebody that people that can be talked to. If that means mentors, all well and good. If that means spiritual authority, if that means their parents, whoever that is, right? I like something there that your mentor did, Precious, that I don't know if maybe that was what crossed your mind as well, is that at that moment when he asked him to leave the room and started talking to you, and you were thinking, shouldn't you as a mentor be on the side of the person your mentee? I don't know, for me, that really just says that if anything happens, I know that I can come to this person and they will be fair. They'll judge fairly,
100%. And like I
right?
always, every other 2 months, I probably, if something has happened, I just write them down and like, okay, this one I can do, this and I can, this one is something I need to change. I'll just call him and be like,
Mm,
"Sir, so what is happening?" And then he'll be like,
mm,
okay. And he will be the one to call him. Like I'm no longer
yeah,
confronting him in some things. I just go the other way. And
mm,
that's also a lot of back and forth.
yeah. No, I love that. That's great. Because for me personally, I always just felt like, ugh, when sometimes, especially even our agenda is the one that will do it. You go and talk to them, the way they will tell you the advice, you'll not be wondering, is a relationship where two now, right? Why are you trying to make it look like all the work to make this work lies on me as the woman? And for the longest time, that made me very close towards talking, opening up about any issue to people. I think we were not so lucky with the mentorship pieces of things and finding the right people. But eventually, God became our mentor, where we said, sit down, the word of God is our mentor on this one. and apply some marital foundational base. Yeah, external influence can also be tricky, right? Yes. And I think for me, it's that I had seen too many external influences that seemed like it was for the right reasons, but ended up being the reason the marriages break up. So there was a lot of trauma there for me. I know it was for me, it was a lot of unhealed trauma, but I was very distrusting about anybody in. And the few times I even tried to, okay, let me talk. Our agenda, we just say, hey, what did you do as a woman? Hey, you're the woman you're supposed to. It's like, give me practical advice that I can apply and make things work, you know. But I'm glad that you found that for yourself. And for those who it will work for, it will work for, right? Thank you. All right. Yep. People coming with their biases too. Absolutely. Anybody else? All the married people. Everybody must talk on this one.
I
We
think
have
honesty.
mhm.
You
Honesty.
have to, yeah, you have to be honest with yourself. Like, you have to just be honest, because with honesty comes transparency. I know that before I met my husband, I had specs that I wanted. It was just, oh God, this is how I want my man to be. What? I want someone who is tall, fair, with side steady, like Shema Moore kind of a guy. And God has a very funny sense of humor. And God gave me the opposite. My husband is dark and short, and he has no teddy. And and it was a period where I didn't even know if I wasn't able to differentiate when God was talking or when it was my mind that was talking. But I remember that it says that my spirit, and I believe it was God, was saying, my thoughts was you are good and not evil, to give you a hope and an expected end. The ways of men are different from my ways. My ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your ways. And then I had to bring myself to the place of, okay, I have to be honest with myself. So if I get a tall Shema Moore kind of guy, handsome and all of that, and I have trouble in my marriage, is it the handsomeness that will solve the trouble? Or I get someone who God has ordained for me from the beginning, that even though when there's storm, God will still be there for me. And both of us will fight valiantly and overcome whatever that storm is. So we have to be really honest about ourselves. Everyone has a spec. Oh, the Bible says I should ask. God will grant me my desires, the desires of my heart. But is it the perfect will of God or the permissive will of God that we're seeking for? We have to be honest about it. So it's not about the physical appearance. It has to be honesty. We just have to be honest with ourselves, because marriage is a lifelong contract. Because for me, I believe, like in Africa, there's no true divorce, because when their kids are getting married, they're both going to sit at the wedding and wear the same clothes for the wedding. So it's a lifelong contract. So we have to be honest about it when we want to go into marriage. Be honest. Don't pretend. And like what Pam said, is once you marry, you see the original person, because we be pretending for each other during a relationship. But when we get into the house, that's when the man will begin to feel that, yes, I'm the man of the house. I'm able to pay rent and put you and give you money and all of that. So it might be different in Canada, because we both we share the responsibility of the house and all of that. So that's when you will see the real person, the original person. Even you as a woman, when you're in a relationship, you won't fart when the guy is there. You will excuse yourself. When you are married, you don't care. You will fart and do anything and yawn anyhow. So we have to bring ourselves to the position of being honest with ourselves.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much. Be honest with yourself. There's a sermon from Pastor Michael Todd where he talked about ripping up your list and just stick with what God gives you. I love that. And that also cracks me up a little bit. The way you won't fart when you're in a relationship. Anyway, thank you so much, Ma. Be honest with yourself, and yeah. Okay. I see a hand up. That's Precious, right?
Yes, I wanted to add something.
Oh, that dear.
Go ahead, Precious.
Okay, I wanted to add something about when you said it could also be a parent. Like, what about people that don't have parent? Like for me now, right? My mom is late, so she's been gone since like over 11 years plus now. And then my dad is quite sick, so he's in a place where you can't even communicate with him. You know, you can talk to him, we hear you, but he can't talk back, right? So it's been tricky for us in terms of involving our parents. And also, so the recent incident that happened in our home, I remember when my husband called my mentor, and I was like, why didn't you tell mommy? So obviously I call his mom mommy, who happens to be my mom as well. Like, why didn't you tell mommy? And then he said, I didn't want to tell mommy because I don't want her to start looking at you in a way or start feeling, why is my son? You know, some parents can be biased, like depending on where you're going, like, why is my son going through whatever it is? Like, it was just a misunderstanding that we could handle. So it was better for us that we had somebody that we could talk to other than our parents. And so when he said, I was like, he actually, in a way, I felt like he protected me from his mom, like the way the parents would see me. You know, they still see me the exact same way. They're not just hearing from the son. We don't report ourselves to our parents and all of these things, right? So I think with parents, it could be tricky, right? Who is reporting? Who is the one at fault? And all of those things. But because our parents could be biased, but God will lead us to the right. I've seen in-laws that are really, really, that don't care about whose child it is, and when they give the feedback without having anything against the other person that is not their biological child.
Sorry, I just wanted to just talk a little bit on what Precious is saying. So there was something that my pastor had told me when we're getting married, and he said something along the lines of, yes, everybody wants the best for you and your marriage, but you also have to be careful because your people are your people. That regardless of, yes, they can try as hardest to be objective, but the first thing that they want to do is to protect you as their person. So that's why when it comes to asking for advice from external people, you have to be very careful who you're asking and what you're asking. Because from the place of protection, as much as you're trying to be objective, you're indirectly also painting a picture of your spouse to them. So yes, with that one, I honestly think that's like asking people for advice with your spouse, like you have to use like serious discernment, because there's also that, and also the lens that the person you're asking is using is another thing. For instance, if you're asking someone about a problem in your marriage that this external party has dealt with, the way that they dealt with it might not work for your own marriage. So it's also like, yes, you're going to get advice from people, but there's also a place of picking and choosing who you're asking, and also picking and choosing what advice they're giving you and how it actually affects your present situation. So yeah, I think with external influence is very, 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 very tricky, and we have to be super careful.
One more thing, though, I want to add to, based on what the first person speaker said, about saying things like, oh, I have a problem or a situation in my marriage, and then I go to my parents and say, oh, this is what is happening. We're human beings. It's easy for where you offend your parents, your mom or your father, for them to forgive and forget because you're their child, you're their biological child. But it's a different ball game when it comes to someone like your spouse. Even though they say they forgive, it's hard because I don't know how to word it. The kind of love that you will have for your child will be different kind of love that you will have for somebody else who isn't your biological child, even though they are Christians. I came to learn that over the years. It's better that I find I might be hurt in the marriage because of the situation. I have come to I think the best thing is for me to sit down and be honest with myself. Where did I go wrong? Because I don't want my parents not to love my husband wholeheartedly as much as they love me. Because like what I think it was Pam that said, the way you present your spouse is the way your family will see him. You want your family to respect him. So if you keep, I feel that if if I, as a person, keep saying, oh, my husband did this, my husband did this, my husband did this, unconsciously, they will not love him. Like they will just be managing him. And I don't think I will be happy with people from my family to manage my husband or be disrespectful to my husband, or when they see him, they begin to say, let's just manage him. No. So I think what she's saying, we have to be very careful about who we share it with. And I know who we share our problems with. And I know that if we're able to sit down after every situation, after all the storm and all the hotness and the anger, we sit down and think about the situation and look at the situation critically. You will know where you were wrong and you will know where you were right. But it's not a matter of, in marriage, it's not a matter of, oh, I'm right, you are wrong, who is wrong, who is right. It's about peace in the marriage. Keep making that storm to cease. Yeah, we are two different people from two different backgrounds. So there is bound to always be a little bit of tension. But the most important thing is how we are able to handle that tension. I like the place of mentorship. Oh, I have a mentor. Oh, I know that if I say I want to report my husband to this person, because he will be respectful because the place of fear is there. Or if I report my wife to this person, she will be respectful because she fears this person. It's okay, but over time, sometimes how long will those mentors are not going to be with us forever? So how are we going to handle it when they are not there? So I believe we should just sit down and think about it, talk it over. It's hard to talk over a situation because we'll both be shouting. Like me, I will be shouting. My husband will really shout. I will shout. My husband will say, Shebi, we're trying to settle this issue and you are still shouting. But because of the kind of person I am, I will shout and express myself. He will allow me. And after I say, okay, let's do this. This is okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Then me too. I'll say, okay, I'm sorry. So we have to still be able to position ourselves in sitting together, talking about it, expressing our anger and say, this is what you did I don't like. And then we let it go. That's my own personal opinion.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Really enjoyed the conversation. So at the end of the day, it's that it's not a bad thing to involve external people if and when needed, but just applying wisdom in how we're involving them, what we're saying, who they are, and being mindful of how we're presenting ourselves and our spouses to it. And yeah, Precious, you're right. Like even with for people who may not have parents to even lean on, sometimes having other authorities involved when needed can be helpful. I know I had one uncle who always beats his wife, and at the end of the day, she had been bearing and bearing and bearing until one day she just came to the family and said, "Look, I'm calling a family meeting," and she reported him to the whole family. And he is coming from a house where he has 5 sisters. None of their husbands would dare lift their hands on them, right? We are very strong women in my family. You will not do that one with us. So hearing their own brother doing that to somebody else, believe you me, they set him straight, right? So, but I can imagine a situation like that if she never spoke up, right? And then they also addressed her too because she had where she was also at fault. Not that she deserved it or because she caused it, but there were things that, they advised her to say, look, do this and do that. As a woman, you're always home. Literally every of your needs to the last thing, your underwear, your pad, everything. This man, you go to him and ask, like, where is your own self-respect in that? Don't put yourself in a place where you give him the opportunity to subdue you because you're fully dependent on him. Again, we're very independent women too. And that's how we were raised, right? So in that intervention saved their marriage and saved her life, I would say, because I've seen where they get into their fights and it's ugly, very ugly. So when I think about a case like that, that external influence is what helped, right? But also there are times where one has to be very mindful of how that is happening. I think it's finding that sweet balance between the two. Thank you, everyone. So I'll take confidence first. I think her hand came up first, and then Funks, and then I'll read the chat from Tyra, and then we'll move on from that. Yeah, of course. Over time, you learn to communicate better with your spouse. Absolutely. Okay. Confidence.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon.
So what I would say is, for those that have not married, my advice would be you pray in advance. That you bank prayer in advance. You're kind of one thing that I did that was really helpful was I listed some of the things that I would need, qualities that I would need, and the rest of them, and then prayed in advance. It a kind of help that because when I was a kind of praying, it was as if nothing was happening. But I found out that after I was married, I saw most of the things I prayed for being played out. Like it has a way of making everything easy for you because you are not in the marriage trying to correct things or trying to work out things the way you would want it to be, but you have already because you have already dealt with some of those things in the place of prayer before even getting married. It will kind of ease up a bit. Then another thing that I would say is go for knowledge, go for knowledge, go for seminars, read books on marriage, listen to people listen to marriage counselors that you know that their marriage is working. You understand? And then bank up knowledge in advance for you. It's going to help you when you finally get there. And then consciously work on yourself before you get married. If there are a kind of behaviors or attitudes that your parents are a kind of advising you to put down, or your friends are always complaining, or you find out that I'm not really good in this or that, consciously and prayerfully work on yourself in that regard. Because if you fail to do that before getting married, definitely marriage will not change you. When you come in, you still see yourself doing that same particular thing. Maybe your husband or your wife may not like it, and then it becomes a very big challenge for you to deal with at that point because you're already at a spot under pressure. But if you consciously work on them ahead of time, it's going to help you. You will come in and feel a bit easy. So that would what I would say. Thank you.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much, Confidence. Bank prayers in advance. And I agree because even sometimes when there are confusion, to what Temili was saying earlier when she spoke, is that there are times that you think you want XYZ, and then but God's will for you doesn't come in the package of XYZ, right? Prayer would even help put some clarity to some of those things and sieve emotions from what you really need and to see who God has for you, but also just kind of like smoothing out the journey ahead of you. And I love even more so where you said consciously work on yourself. Marriage won't change who you are. As a matter of fact, marriage would typically amplify who you are, because then you're also dealing with the friction of getting to see let me borrow that word, the original version of the person. And then there'll be friction. And when the friction comes, if you're somebody who any little thing, you don't have anger management, you can't control your emotions, truth is that you see yourself start going into places that you're wondering, wait, is this me? It is you amplified, because again, remember 10% in relationship, 100% in the marriage, right? So yeah, thank you for that. Thanks.
All raised have been mentioned, but the one thing I wanted to say was I think open communication even while dating is something. When you get into those situations in marriage where you need to have like frank conversations, it makes it a little easier. It really talked about setting everything if possible, like as that it's always good to things phase so that is it worth it? Well, so you that marriage, right? So it's not when you're in marriage that you would think, but I thought you loved me, so you would change, or not understanding, like also knowing what they kind of expect or are looking for. So not only what you can or cannot take, but also what they can and can't take, because getting married to is in quotes perfect for you, but then certain things that that person can't tolerate, there'll still be that friction, right? So I think that's something that should be discussed, open communication, and setting the basis for that, I think helps. And then in terms of when I was dating my husband, my friend had told me this. She said her sister, who had been married like years before, share certain things with her about the things like the husband had done, because truly, as everyone has said, yeah, like if someone should tell me something about somebody else, or like you've forgiven them, but then that thing that they have done, you'd be like, oh, you're the person that, and I'll still keep on seeing you as that person, even though I've forgiven you. So there will still be that unconscious bias at the back of your mind, right? So, and I think that ties into that open communication, because you've dealt with, I feel like that kind of opens up the stage for when you have issues. Again, but just to tie into that, there are certain things that people say or ideologies about marriage. I think even, not going into marriage with all those ideologies, one thing I would say, for example, is, oh, don't go to bed angry. Depending, you might need to sleep over it or sleep on it and then talk, a few hours after or the next morning. Because I know that's one thing they keep on saying, oh, when you're getting, again, it works for different things, work for different people, but understanding what works for you and that person is that if I need to sleep on this thing, let me sleep. And then when I wake up, we'll talk about it. And not putting that extra external pressure of what everybody has said about how marriage should be or whatever the template is of marriage, and taking that into marriage. And then I feel like that's one thing I kind of held on to was, oh, I don't want to go to bed upset. I need time to process over things before I talk, so I don't just say rubbish or whatever, right? And I kind of struggled with that like for a while, because I'm like, okay, I can't go to bed yet because I want to talk about blah 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 blah. So I think not going into marriage with all those preconceived notions that we have, and then setting that stage for open communication even while dating, I feel like that would help.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Funks. I love that. I like that example you shared. For me, I know that trying to do that whole let's not go to bed angry. It's okay, let's trash it out. And what will happen is 3 a.m. we're still up and then we have to go to work 8 a.m. the next that same day. Until last we're like, you know what? Yeah, this isn't working. Let's just agree. We're not getting a divorce. Everybody on board? Say aye, aye. Okay, good. Now, wherever any concerns come up and they lead us, when the argument starts getting to a point where it feels like things are said or that are done that would leave lasting marks, it's like, you're crossing a line. Let's not cross that line. Okay, good. Everybody, time out. Let's come back to this tomorrow. Everybody go and sleep. And I think in the spirit of becoming us too, when I think about someone like Brad and Michelle's story, is that part of it is that they navigated them and what worked for them. And I think that to a very large extent, that's something key. I'm going to read some of the ones that came in the comments, and then we'll move on to the next one. So Taya says that, adding to what everybody has said, marry someone who is willing to let you shine, someone who is okay with taking the back burner while you are out there and not jealous. Marry your helper. And that is so profound, because when I think about the Obamas, they're both lawyers, right? And Barack clearly was not intimidated when he met Michelle and she was his mentor. At first, he was a student intern. That obviously did not deter him. And in that comment that I shared, the excerpt that I shared, you see that too as well, right? She also alluded to that, which is, I could tell that he would be okay with me being prosperous. Right? So I love that. Marry your helper. And then Precious added that it's not everything you go to your mentor for. True, we established that. Over time, learn to communicate better with your spouse. Also true. In the beginning, there might be some of that friction because, like we've all shared, right? You're getting to know each other, you're getting to see pieces that you didn't see in the relationship, and then we have counseling every other month with our spiritual parents. Again, also profound in that just like you need mentorship in any other area of your life, if you nail it and you find somebody who is great, all well and good, right? I know for my husband and I, yes, we'll talk to people occasionally. That didn't work out. Our parents didn't work out. His didn't work out. Mine didn't work out. So there are not a lot of examples to really look up to. And the whole talking to mentor thing, I actually had an experience. One of my friends was talking to her pastor. Her pastor was counseling her and her at the time boyfriend, and kind of navigating. I think this guy had proposed then when we were in university together. He had proposed marriage. They were going to get married. He went on to do NYSC. And long story short, before Auntie finished school, all we knew was that she married Pastor last. And we're wondering what happened. So in the place of counseling, Pastor has snatched uncle's baby. Things like that. Experiences like that. I would like to you for me. It was like, okay, let's not do this, you know. And then for me, I know there are times that you even tried it. I know, right? This is true story. I know the girl, she's my friend. I know the guy, he's my friend. And I know the pastor too, who apparently at the time was also my friend. Eric was my friend. So let's just say things like that left a bad taste on my mouth for all things marriage related. And if I worked with some of the advices people had given me, I won't be married to my husband today. I'll probably be married to different people. And in retrospect or in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, God, I thank you. The pastor has been scoping her seriously, and he counseled her out of the relationship to marry him instead. But actually, to be fair, their marriage is working out, at least from what we can see and hear. But again, you never know what's really working, right? So, but I have mentors in other areas of my life, right? But even no matter what it is coming to that point where you understand what you need. And I can't remember if it was Funks or Pam that said this, or maybe Precious or Antimile, but that you know yourself, you know the other person, and you know what together you bring to the table and what you can take and or cannot take. Yeah. Okay, and then Emmanuel also said that marry someone you feel secure with your fears, your insecurities. I love that so much because again, in the spirit of your spouse knows you the best, and we see that in Michelle's life, right, where she could be vulnerable with Barack in ways that other people never saw. People will probably look at her and think she's very prosperous, she's very this, she's very that. And she even describes how she was driving her car, going to work, and all of that. I'm like, man, I want to be that woman and much more. But then you also see some of the insecure thoughts that she grapples with and how he's there to support her and vice versa, right? So really, I love all the contributions so far. And Deborah, to your question, if there's a way to take all of this nuggets and put it into a book, I don't see why not. Hey, who knows? Maybe we'll do an ebook from Ladies Arise, co-authored by all the people who have shared to say, actually, maybe we can do that. Anyway, if you're interested and you don't mind and you want to type it out to me, please send it to me. We can do a PDF-ish thing where we can say, marriage nuggets from Ladies Arise. And then we'll put it on. Oh, I was gonna say we'll put it on the website. We don't have a web, but we'll put it somewhere. I can put it on my Advanced and Fulfilled coaching website. I can put it on my Loud Talences website, and people can go there and download and learn from our experiences. Anything you want to share, please by all means let me know. Send me a message with it. We'll put it together. We'll put your name. We'll put your picture if you want, and we can go from there. I believe strongly in sharing knowledge and helping other people. None of us have it all figured out together yet, but with the number of years we've each been in our marriages so far, no matter how young the youngest marriage might be here, is that you've learned something, and from what you've learned, it can help somebody else too. Marriage is not copy and paste templates. There's nothing like that. But people can see different ways people have navigated different things and learn from that. Yeah, marry someone you like and who is your friend. It's not every day you'll be feeling butterflies in, yeah, so true, but at least you can have fun and enjoy life with your spouse. Know yourself, love yourself, affirm. Please send it to WhatsApp or email, whatever, so that we don't lose it once this is over. Thank you. Thank you so much. Um okay, we'll move on. We did spend some time on this one. Becoming more. becoming more. When I think of that part three, I haven't finished it. So disclaimer, I said that before, that I haven't finished reading the book. So I'm actually just starting part three for myself. But I'd kind of like looked up some summary of what it's about and some of the stories shared. And this centers a little bit more on the whole presidency piece, the events that happened, conversations with her parent, her mom at this point, things that people were saying, and for me, one thing I'm learning from the Obama story is at whatever level you are in life, there'll be conversations happening in your head that make you want to feel insecure. There are times you still feel like an imposter sometimes. There are times you still feel like somebody pinch me, this is a dream, it's not real. There are times you still, have those, you're still human. Titles, positions, number of followership you have, all of those things do not take away the fact that you are still human. And at the core, we all still want to be loved, to be seen, to be recognized, to be accepted, to be validated. We still want all of those things, and you think that being a president and being the first lady should shield somebody from sexism, racism, and all these other derogatory comments that people would typically make. But that wasn't the case. And not just because they were presidents and out in the public, but even much more so because they were Black people as well. So how do we, and for a lot of us here on this call today, we're Black women who are navigating cultural histories that tell us what we should be versus what the reality of today's world is. And then we're now here for some of us that are outside of Nigeria and we're in other countries, and you're a minority all of a sudden, you're racialized person, you're visible minority, and then added to things like sexism you've already been dealing with, coming from culture is very sexist. I said it, yeah, unapologetically so, to a very large extent. We have thank God for people who are learning and unlearning the things they've seen that is not helpful, but we still have a long way to go. We're now adding to that things like racism, and then we still want to climb in our career, we still want to grow, we still want to be all of these things. How do we navigate all of those things and not let it stop us from being who we need to be, but continue to evolve and become who we want to be? And we'll wrap up with that question so that we can make sure that we get everybody out in time. Anybody? Go for it.
Well, I think you have to do what you have to do, to be honest. At the end of the day, and it's very difficult. At the end of the day, we're trying to get to a specific goal. Let's just say career-wise, you're trying to get to this specific place in your career. These things, all these things, racism, sexism, all of them are deterrent. But at the end of the day, we just have to push. So for instance, if we need to upskill, because what I noticed, personal experience, what I noticed was looking for jobs from even from right after undergrad up until now, there's a lot of nepotism in the system because people get jobs. If you notice you'll notice now that a lot of jobs is based on who you know. So putting ourselves out there and actually trying to build our network and just using, I don't know what better way to say this, but using the tricks that every other race is using the tricks that they have, like this, I don't really know how to say this very in the most PC way, but I feel like, yes, that we just need to push. And yes, these things are challenges, but they're not excuses for us not to get to where we're going.
Thanks, Pam. I really love that. There are challenges, but not excuses for us to not get to where we're going. And I like what you said about just we gotta do what we gotta do, right? I think it even reminds me of the other book we read, Choose to Prosper, last year, I believe. And at the end of the day, the core for me in Bukola's story, Bukola Busola, is that you know, bite the bullet, make it work, find a way to make it work, find a way to rise above it, and be true to yourself too, right? Yeah. And when we need to speak up and fight against the biases, we do. Bola, sorry, thank you. Yeah. Yes. Yep. I love that. Thank you, Ife Jesu. So join DEI teams. That DEI story. Anyway, story for another day. But I agree. And I love that when they go low, we go high. Yep, Michelle does say that a lot. So I see Precious's hand up and then Funks.
Yeah. So I was watching a movie recently. I watched a movie recently. It's called Hidden Figures. I don't know if anybody has seen it. They're like bunch of Black women. For me, what I learned from that movie is be undeniably intelligent. Know your craft. Like there's no way they would deny you of way. It might be rough at first, trying to navigate yourself through the system and all of those things. But when you know your worth, know what you're bringing to the table, you can fight it. And when they say that you can, like you're smart, you know what you're doing and all of this, they can't deny you of your position. Like Barack today, even as we're looking at our first Black president, it wouldn't have been possible if the dude was not smart. If you listen to when he's speaking, you know that this person, what they do, even the wife safe, even though they're no longer in office, but people even respect them more than the president, the ex-president before the Biden family. People still refer to them as Mr. President, because people know their worth. They know what they brought to the table while they were in office. So I think for me, whether you're being racist to me, you're being sexist to me, and you cannot deny the fact that I'm bringing something to the table, intellectually. I know my craft, and what I will help.
Absolutely. I love that so much. Thank you. Actually, the this even touches, and I think maybe that's I got a little selfish there. It touches a little bit even on the video that I'm putting out tomorrow, because I kept thinking about that question from what's it called, from PGC, when that question was asked to say, against all the racism and everything, like how do you still navigate your career and grow, right? And the more I think about that question, I realized that it was important to just kind of put something out there that speaks to that. And one of the emphasis is on build your craft. And I mentioned that there that day too, right? But even much more so, you're right. People have a lot of respect for these people because you can tell that they're well learned, they know their stuff. And you can see it, right? In when Michelle shares about how Obama keeps reading, he's an avid reader, he reads papers, he reads books, he reads articles, he's writing, So yeah. Anyway, Funks.
Precious just said what I was going to say is, be the best at what you can do. That way, they won't be able to, or it will be hard for them to deny you. I won't say you're right, but deny you certain positions, right? I know an example is in my office, the chief technical officer or whatever is Ghanaian. And whenever people hear that, they're like, what is Ghanaian and how? But when you hear him speak and when you hear him in meetings, you're like, okay, I understand. And even the way his team respects him because of the knowledge that he has. So I think in line with also what Pam has said was upskill, right? Don't be okay with the mediocre. Don't just say, oh, because I have this degree, I'm okay, I'm just going to stay there. And to her point is also leverage the skills that our other counterparts are using. For example, one thing that I feel that we don't do, and I'm very guilty of this, is we don't brag about our achievements, right? So in an interview, for example, when they're asking you what are the things that you have done, you try to be humble, blah, blah, blah. But when you listen in on other people's interviews, the way they would highlight and blow their trumpet, I did this, $1 million, like, calling up numbers here and there. And these are things that I feel like as maybe Africans, is that I don't know if we're taught to be humble or we just don't know how to, toot our own horns. I feel like that's something that we need to learn, is that truly there are principles that work, right? Even in life, they say, oh, for those who are wealthy, even though they're not Christians, there are many wealthy non-Christians, right? Because they have applied all these principles. So even in the workplace as well, or, in life, is to know the principles that we need to apply and apply them, because truly they work, right? So if they're asking you what are the things that you have done, don't be shy. You're playing small. Like, that's one of my favorite quotes, is that you're playing small does not help anybody, does not help the world. So shine like the lights that you are, right? So I think that's also something that we should work on, is upskilling, but then in the same place, being able to leverage whatever skills that we have seen or principles we have seen that work for the workplace. If it's, any accomplishment you do, um, own it, right? I know, even reading the book, that was something that struck or stood out to me, was when Michelle was saying her parents taught them to be intelligent, but also to not be afraid to, I can't remember what it was, but like, don't be afraid to own your intelligence. Don't be shy. Don't say, oh, I'm intelligent, so I'm a nerd, so I go and hide somewhere. No, you're intelligent. Let the world see that you're intelligent, right? And I feel like those are the things that will help us navigate the workplace. But also, as parents, is that we should also raise our kids to be confident, right? So that when these things come up, they are able to stand for themselves. And to what Pam just wrote, actually, my main point, sorry, was your community. I think having people in our circle that, are doing well, or we can encourage each other. My cousin always says, the sky is big enough for all the birds to fly. So me growing does not hinder your growth, right? So I think even having that mindset, is that I can still advance and pull up others with me, and their advancement doesn't hinder mine. I think is something that would help. Sorry, I was rambling there, but yeah.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, to your own words. Toot your horn, speak your piece. All right, thank you so much. I really, really, really love that. And it touched on several things. I've loved all the thoughts shared on this one so far, even because truth be told is that, like Pam was even saying much earlier, do what needs to be done. And part of what needs to be done is nobody's gonna come and do it for you. And realizing that, right? I like what you shared about how some people are not afraid to share what they have. Actually, research shows that women tend to downplay their achievements much more than men. And generally speaking, in Canada, the Caucasian, white Canadian, and people who are raised here tend to, they're very comfortable with tooting their own horns, and not so much for other races, because, we have this false sense of humility training that we think we have, which sometimes works against us. I know when we now add on a layer of being Christians, it becomes very tricky. I've been asking God to say, like, where is the line between owning that I did something, or that if somebody says, oh, okay, I heard you're the one that did clinical, I'm say, oh yes, I did that, and playing humble or being humble for real, without trying to say I'm taking the glory, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes sense, and just asking God to just help me learn how to navigate those two things, and I know there's a lot of hard work that determines what that is really. But learning how to choose our own horns. I know that, one thing, for instance, personally, I've seen is, you work on projects with somebody, the way they'll come and talk about that same project and use it to leverage their next level. You'll be wondering, wait, what? Is it the same project that we did? Right? And you might be there struggling. But I love what you also said about understand what works and the principles that are working, and follow suit. Pam said something about joining a lot of DEI committees and all that. So true. Diversify. Quite frankly, diversify. If you look through the story of the Obamas, one thing you will see is that both of them didn't have any problem mixing up the different races, classes of people that they were liaising with, right? And one thing Michelle did that I really love at her firm, at Austin and Sidley, that she did was that she was able to bring in people that ordinarily would never have had a shot at an organization like that. Now, what she had done was expand the thinking of the people who work in that organization, but also opened up the door. And to the point that Pam put here, which is pull people up whenever you can, she opened up the door for people that would ordinarily never have been able to apply there. How much more getting the job, right? Women are afraid to apply for some jobs after going through the job description. So true. Same with negotiations. They're afraid to negotiate as well, right? I can't believe I helped my husband, worked with him through his negotiation for his last job. And when it was my turn, I remember saying to myself, like, what possessed me? Yes, I tried to negotiate for some stuff and I was able to get some stuff, but it wasn't, at the end of it wasn't all the things that I wanted. And I kind of backed out a little bit. And I was wondering, what is wrong with me? When I told him and I told him going at this, he went in at that, even now added Jara to it. But I've seen, not even just for other women, but quite frankly, if I want to be honest, even for myself, is that I'll say, okay, go in at this. And they'll go and come back and they'll probably go in at maybe less than 5K or less than 10K from what I recommended to say go in at. And I've seen this happen. I've dealt with women as clients, I've dealt with men as clients, and in helping them with their career. And they'll go in, myself included. I'm not even going to lie and say that I nail it all the time. I don't, you know. And I'll go in and then it's like 5K, 10K less than I planned to go in at. And I'll be wondering, okay, what just happened? I don't know, but it's part of the things that we now need to learn and question ourselves to say, break the barriers. But it also starts with owning your accomplishment. There's a training that I think I have, and I'm starting to, I'm almost done like putting some of those trainings back on my new website platform that I've navigated to. It's called Self-Efficacy. It's a confidence boosting course. Once it's available, I think I shared it last night. If I shared it with you before, I'm not sharing with you again. You'll go and pay for it this time. But if I've never shared it with you, I'm happy to share it again once it's fully up and ready. And I'll encourage everyone to do that course because the truth is that it helps you learn how to own your accomplishments and speak to it with confidence, such that you realize that, yeah, I did this. So anyway, all of those things really it would help steer us where we need to be and helping other people. Quite frankly, people ask me why I, yeah, right, perks of Ladies Arise, absolutely. People ask me questions around like, do you get paid in doing some of the things you do? I don't get paid. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of times, including this morning, at some point I was like, why am I doing this again? But part of it is the let's pull one another up. Man, I've seen history of women pulling down women too much, and I'm sick and tired of it. Nobody is coming for us, people. We are here for each other, and we have to help one another. And right after this session, if you're not in the WhatsApp group, I encourage you join it. And when you join, between over this weekend, I want us all to, ask for one thing that maybe you need help with. If you're looking for a job, say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Here's my field. Here's what it is. If you know somebody or know an opportunity somewhere, please respond to that person and say, hey, I know somebody here. I work here. I'm happy to put some referral for you. Those are the kinds of things that we should be doing for one another. If somebody is in a business that you know that are in that business, people that are close to me that run business, they know. I'm a weird loyalist like that. I will not take my business elsewhere when I know that somebody that I know is doing the same thing. If I now feel, okay, you're too pricey for me, worst case, I'll have a conversation with you to say, hey, it's pricey. Can I, can I get some discounts if possible? And if they say no, I'll say, okay, look, you know what? I got you. I'll help do whatever I can, but I'll come back when I can afford you and or not. But I'll still see other ways to support. We need to start supporting and helping one another. People, nobody's coming for us. We are all we've got, and God with us. I know we can do it. All right. So um thank you. I love precious snacks too. Can I get free one today? I'm just kidding. Yes, the link will be shared. Ife, can you help me share the WhatsApp link or phone? Anybody? Okay, it's already 2 o'clock. I don't want us to, we've said a lot. Please, the conversation doesn't end here. If there's any thoughts, any question you have, please put them in the WhatsApp group. Disclaimer, I'm not the best at engaging group chats. If you've noticed anything about me, I'm a very direct shooter. I did a personality test at my previous place of work. And I was thinking I was going to come up as a bright yellow sun, happy, easygoing, always chatting with people. Turns out I was way more red than I planned. I hoped that I was going to be. Amen. God will favor all of us indeed. So please, if you're looking for a job or anything, put your name there, ask for what you're looking for. You never know, right? And let's just learn to be more open and ask for help. That's another thing women we don't know how to do, is ask for help. Please, let's help one another. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up now, please. Yeah, absolutely. There's one I love so much, 116personality.com. I'll share it in the WhatsApp group chat. Okay, so finally, we've all learned about the ups and downs, the things that could have been excuses in the life of the Obamas, each person together, you know, and through all of it, whether it's the racism, whether it's growing up in poverty, whether it's growing up with separated parents, all of those things did not deter Obama nor Michelle from holding back their life. So the one question I have for us is, let's go back and do an introspection. What is that thing that you're looking for in life? If you need to start journaling, almost start journaling. All right. The way I'm so glad to hear, Anu. I don't know if you've been here before. We've done introductions, but we can take the introduction to the WhatsApp group chat and that works. Yeah. So, what is an excuse that you've been holding on to? Well, welcome. We're glad to have you. We're so glad to have you. We'll do introductions better in the WhatsApp group chats if you don't mind, if you want to join us there as well. So, one question to take away, and we'll post this question in the group chats too, is what is an excuse you've been holding on to in living your life? Right? What is an excuse? Because when I look at the Obamas, Obama could have been bitter that his father was not there. um Michelle could have been, you know, bitter and said, you know what, screw this, I can't continue doing this. I don't have to always be the first person in the room to hold the door for other people or do this or do that. But what is the one thing that you're holding on to as an excuse? Some of us have a lot of excuses. Because I'm black, it's because I'm an immigrant, it's because I'm this. We, in our icebreaker, we learned about all those first black people, because the truth is it was supposed to challenge us to say, wow, I didn't know who this person was, what's their story. I didn't know who this person was, what's their story. I talked about the Christine Luanga, and the reason I particularly put her there was because I'd been thinking and struggling for the longest time about a lot of things around my PhD and all that, but thinking that I don't know if this is something that people do or women do, or if there's something that anybody in Canada wants to listen to. And then shows up this woman in my life, and just seeing that she had started the work, it made me feel like, nah, all the work that she had put in cannot go to waste. Somebody has to step in and continue the work, but even much more so, take it to a whole new level, right? And when I listen to her talk, it's that I do all that I do. And quite frankly, she does a lot, and none of it is about herself, and for me, that inspired me. And I can only hope that my life and my story and my decisions inspire somebody else as well to say, I need to do better. And the whole concept of Ladies Arise is that it helps each of us to be inspired in our different crafts. I think it was Precious or films that was talking about that. The Obamas knew their craft and being excellent at it, right? Is that you know your craft and then you apply it to help other people as well. Man, we have daughters, we have sons. We were talking about this last night, and somebody was asking, was your son born? And I said, so then he will be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And I didn't even flinch, because in my mind, I was like, yep, that definitely can happen. And who knows, they can also switch the law such that my daughter can also be it, and say if you arrive Canada at 2 years or less, you can also be a Prime Minister. The truth is that there are so many ceilings to break, and we got to start breaking them. If not for us, for our children, let the ground be really leveled for them. All right. Anyway, if I start going all motivational speech on you, I'm sorry. That was not the intent. Funks, your hand is up. Is that new or is that old?
Oh, that's old.
Funks,
Sorry.
that's old. Okay.
Yeah.
Did somebody share the WhatsApp link yet?
No, I can't find it. I was just asking Ife now if she has it.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me see if I can pull it up. All right. So while this thing is coming up, so for benefits of those joining us for the first time, again, this is Ladies Arise. Welcome. We're glad to have you. Our vision is to help ladies live intentional, purposeful, and holistic lives, through continuous learning, self-awareness, and development, and community support. So we've talked about the community you're in as well, right? This is part of it, right? And we've talked about, that holistic life, It's not just the career, it's not just the spiritual, it's not just our lives. Actually, all those pieces of our lives are intertwined, and that's the truth, right? If your health is not good, trust me, you will struggle a bit spiritually, you will struggle a bit physically and otherwise. And then the mission really is to build and equip tomorrow's ladies today. So where you're headed and where you're going, the journey doesn't start when you get there. It starts today, and just working together to do that. And some of the ways we do this is we read a book a month, we apply coaching and mentoring. We've not been doing a lot of all of these things. The book, we've been trying to nail down the consistency of that. So we're grateful for that. We do some challenging and fun activities, seminars, trainings, boot camps, and then vlogs, blogs, podcasts, TV is the goal, is that one day we'll get there as well. So if you have an idea of a book we should read, please bring it up. Let us know. If you'd like to be in the background work of supporting some of the work that we do, some people here have graciously accepted to be part of the executive team. So they help with picking out the books, they help with some of the stuff. And I know, Precious, I'm sorry I haven't called you yet. Thank you for reaching out to help with some of the communication pieces. It's things like doing the Canva design for the book, and sending out the emails, those types of things. We still need help in those areas. So if you want to help, please feel free to let me know. Pam, I see your message with ask to help. Thank you for that. Um, yeah, I'll be in touch with that. So here's the link if you want to join the WhatsApp group. And then on that note, we'll talk about next month. Next month, we're not going to be reading a book. So if you haven't finished Becoming, please make sure you finish it. Next month is International Women's Day. And next month, we're bringing two women who, you know what, one has definitely said yes. I'll stop recording. No, I'll leave it. And the other one is tentative, but I think it's about 80 to 90% confirmed. So for those who know, we will be, for those who know Worola da Silva, who recently made partner in um, Miller Thompson law firm at, um, she will be here next month herself. And we're also inviting someone called Dayo. Dayo is a talent acquisition um manager, no, not talent acquisition, I forgot what she is, but she's an HR specialist, and she works with Public Service Commission. So she will be coming. She's also a business owner. Wura is a lawyer, and like I said, she recently made partner, and they'll both be coming and we'll be having a chat together. They'll walk us through what their career navigation has been like. They're both married, they both have kids that they're raising. So just to kind of chat through the whole journey, what that looks like. They're both immigrants, like most of us are. And even if you're not in Canada or outside of Nigeria, and just even there's a lot to learn in how they've navigated their lives, and just gotten to where they are today and doing what they do. It's part of celebrating the success stories, but also sharing knowledge on what has helped them succeed. And so we'll be facilitating that conversation next month with them. If you want to help facilitate that, please let me know. I love talking, but I also love to give people opportunity to shine and grow. And this is also a training ground. All right. It's a safe space to learn and do some of these things as well. So that's what we'll be having. The poster is not ready, but I still need final confirmation from Wura on the timing that it works for her. But I think the day works, just the timing we're a little listen about. That's what we're gonna have. So just something to keep in mind. Juicy stuff coming next month. So yeah. Any final thoughts, word, concerns, questions? And I really want to get us out of here. Sorry, we're over time a bit. Okay. If nothing, thank you all so much for being here. I see that the thanks for the session. I'm happy to attend always. Really great to have everybody here. Thank you so much. There are so many things you could do with your Saturday afternoon, but it's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you. We are done.
Thank you,
Yay.
Ma. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend,
You
everybody.
as well. Yep.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Bye. Bye, Manuela. Manuela, enjoy your night.